Hello and welcome to a new episode of Have We Really Met? So, who I'm about to interview next is somebody that I was actually stationed overseas with while both of our now former spouses had a station in Naples, Italy. Look at that.
I feel like my mom, no, hit this button over in the corner. No, hit this button. No, not that button.
Yeah, I can't even tell you how many different programs I had to use while I was like a remote teaching and then like having to walk through all of these kids because they would like unmute themselves and just start randomly speaking or they're yelling at their siblings. And I'm just like, can you just mute while I'm trying to teach just for 5 minutes?
Just for 5 minutes. That's it. Well, I mean, I have to do it all the time on the computer at work, but I've never done it from my phone. So I even had to download Zoom before I could call you.
Oh,
and I was like, yeah, this is going to be fun.
Well, I appreciate you doing that. This is really going to be cool. Okay, so I sent you a list of questions. So we're just going to go through the questions to hopefully stay on topic, even though I know we're totally both off topic type of people. So it's fine.
I was just going to say, it's going to go off topic real quick, real fast. I will try not to cuss on your podcast. I'll keep the F-bombs to a minimum.
It's okay. The last couple interviews, I've been the one F-bombing, so it's fine. I'm pretty sure the explicit content will just go across the episode. It's fine. Women in potty mouth. This is like that's the vibe in the tribe I attract. It's fine.
That's the whole military thing, I guess.
Probably. All right. So introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you living now currently? And where did we meet?
Well, when we met, I was Mary Stafford. Since we've met and left and everything else, I have remarried and become Mary Chjarpin, which nobody can say it or pronounce it. I spell it a million times a day. I'm from Florida, Northeast Florida, just outside of Jacksonville, a little podunk county called Baker County. And that's where I ultimately came back to when we got divorced. So that's about it.
Okay, so what do you do for a living? Like what do you do?
I listen to people bitch all day. I am so I work for the county. And it's hard to get in a job with the county here. Somebody has to retire or die, and I managed to get in because I graduated with the then county manager. So when I come home and was going through the divorce and everything, he gave me a heads up. He's like, hey, we're about to post for that job. If you want to put in for it, you got to wait till after it goes into the press on Wednesday, but then you could put in for it. So anyway, I don't know why he thought I would be good dealing with the public. I don't know. I mean, you've seen my Facebook when it rains.
Yeah. If one more person contacts me about salting their driveways or coming in with the backhoe, like what? Yeah, I'm just like, yeah. I don't envy it.
So I work for the public works department. We handle, we have garbage collection sites. We've got 8 of them all over the county. So we handle those, and then roadways. And we have 410 miles of dirt road in our county. And we are literally 2 counties over from Duval, which is where Jacksonville is. So everybody that wants to get out of Jacksonville, they move out here because the houses are cheaper. It's country, it's really rural, but then they want their roads to be like paved roads, and that's where we kind of butt heads. So yeah, that's what I do. I'm the administrative assistant, so I'm the only female on staff of 26, and I like it that way. But they can still get bitchy like hens on their period. It's hilarious. So I deal with payroll, I deal with invoicing, I deal with the funds for paving and stuff from the state of Florida and grants and all that. So that's what I do.
Cool. That's a better rundown that I had an understanding of based on like just social media stuff. I was just like, this job just sounds so stressful, and having to deal with angry Joe calling on a Friday.
It can be, but it also, so I have 2 monitors, and one of my monitor is constantly running Hulu or Netflix or, because I'm usually the only one in the office. The director and the assistant director are always out in meetings and writing damage and all that stuff. So, I'm always there by myself and I can't work in silence. So I'm either
Ah,
playing music that's why you always see me. Okay, here's the list of the shows I've binged. I need new ones. And everybody's
mm.
like, is that all you do? No, but it's my background noise. And if I get really into it, yes, I do nothing else but watch that. Matter of fact, Mallory went to work with me last week or the week before, and it was early because I take her in with me. I have to be there at 7, and she catches the bus from there, and she goes to work, and then she gets off the bus at like 4:10, and then I leave at 5. So she has the nerve to run back to my boss's office and be like, my mom is not even working. She's watching TV. He's like,
Oh
it's
God.
cool. She's got all her work done. It's okay. She come back in and I was like, you damn traitor. But I like it because it's literally 4.7 miles away from my house. There's no red lights in between me and there. There's no traffic, you know. So it's nice. I literally leave work 7 minutes before I have to be there. And I know I'm not going to get caught in any traffic or anything like that. So
That's incredible. Yeah, my commute now is it's an hour and 10 minutes in the morning, all freeways and highways and then, red lights and rural mountain passes and stuff. And then coming home from that, like added on traffic, I'm like 2 hours plus.
oh my
There was
God.
one day I was stuck in the car for 3.5 hours. So by the time I landed at 7:30 after being in the car since three, like, say I was so 4.5 hours, I was so just, I never want to go back again. And it wasn't even it's not even the job. I love my job now, but like the commute is just, it's
Yeah,
awful. But
that would suck.
it was one of the things where it was like the school district I worked at that was close by was draining. I was constantly stressed out. I was coming home in tears almost every single day just because the amount of stress and stuff they were throwing at us. And a
Yeah.
whole bunch of teachers left. Like it wasn't just me. So I think I wasn't the only one. But I traded that 20-minute commute for a less stressful, more inclusive type of school district that really does
Yeah.
care about teacher mental health. So I'm like, I would rather have the long commute where I could listen to podcasts or audiobooks or something on the way in and
Yeah.
out and not have a stressful day. Like if my commute
Yeah.
is the only part of it, I will take it because that
Yeah. And
was,
the girls are older now
yeah.
so they can help with Jacob. So
Oh, okay.
that's
So let's go back to that. So the question of the title of the podcast is, have we really met? And obviously we've really met. We've got the
yes,
picture
we've
proof to
really
show.
met.
But like, what do you remember about when we first met? Like in person, like, do you remember how we first met?
I racked my brain on that. Was it one of the first times that I come over to your house to do jam with somebody? Was that when we met in person?
I don't remember. And I know,
I, so you were going to pick my brain.
yeah, I was, because I really don't remember. I just remember we just started hanging out and like I
Yeah.
was trying to figure, okay, because I know the spouse community overseas can be kind of toxic. And I know that at
Yes.
one point we had talked about that, like while we were still there. Like, this is
Hmm.
insane how
Yes.
toxic people are when really this is all you have to depend on if your world goes to shit. And you're just so
Yes.
willing to pick each other apart for
Hmm.
what? And
And quick, like too.
oh yeah, it was incredible. So I can't remember what exactly connected us, and I know there was like two or three other women there that were in this like really cool tight knit group that you had,
Hmm.
and one of them ended up being everybody's hairdresser for a while because Heidi, because it was
Yes,
very
Heidi.
very
Yes.
difficult to like get into like the hairstylist place on base, and it was just, yeah, and then nobody really trusted going out in town because we were all still kind of newbies to the whole living overseas thing, and
Yes. And
but
I
yeah.
definitely had the language barrier. See, you picked up Italian more than I did. Jana picked up Italian way more than I did. Me, I'm like, io capisco un po' d'italiano.
At least you remember that, because I was like,
Nowadays, that's all I do remember. I don't
that's
know.
good. Well, if you had your go-to phrase, that's good. Because the story that I always tell everybody was that I had lived in Italy for a good 2.5 years, but I wasn't living out in the economy, so I
Mhm.
didn't feel like I needed to. And when you first arrive, so just to put it into context for anybody listening to this or whatever, when you first arrive in overseas destinations, you get met with this command week-long class on how to,
Orientation.
yeah, on how to live, in an overseas destination, how you're going to have to get your car, taken care of, your license, all the things, all
What
the
to do,
orientation.
what not to do. The
So,
journos permit.
oh my gosh. But when we
Mhm,
arrived, we got the fear mongering group where the
mhm.
commander got up in front of us and said, "You will be mugged. You will have your stuff stolen. Italy is not a friendly, under the Tuscan sun destination for military folks." And we were like,
Wow.
"What? Like, what? Why?" So and then like 4 days after we landed, I found out I was six and a half weeks pregnant with Gwen, my second daughter. And so
Mhm.
I stayed on base. I didn't go anywhere. And I had I had asked my ex-husband to, make sure that we got to go to Italy so we had that overseas experience. And then to have it turn into that, I was totally devastated because I was just like, we
Yeah,
came all this way for that. Like this sucks. So
we were so excited to get over there.
yeah, and then but when you and I met, that was at that moment where we had flipped, where we had gone from military to
You were
civilian
on off
contractor,
base. Yeah.
and we decided, okay, that's it. We're done living in fear. We're going to go out and see economy. And we had these amazing landlords who just wanted to take us everywhere and
I
showcase.
loved them. I loved them. The guy
Yeah.
looked like Sting. I remember that.
Paolo, yeah, he was so incredible. And he and his wife were constantly like, you should go out town and, go shopping. And so I went out in town with her and I was out shopping, and this shopkeeper was just on me all the time. Every time we went out there, and I would just like have my little guidebook of like phrases and stuff to say. And for the longest time, for months, he would say horrible things to me. And I'm looking in my book for what he's saying. And nobody was correcting him. Nobody was telling me that he was like cussing me out pretty much. And then a friend of mine went with me who spoke fluent Italian, and she was
Mhm.
like, "Do you know every time you walk in there, he says, good morning, you fucking American? Like, that's what he's saying to you." And I'm like, "Are you serious? He's so nice to me." And she goes, "I think he's testing you." So you need. So we went to base and we found this phrase book that was, and it had like the hand on it, right? The Italian hand, like the
Yeah, yeah.
whatever, and it was all of these inappropriate phrases. So I walked in there and I was just like, okay, I'm ready, So the next time we went in, and he was the butcher. Like we went every twice a week to him. And yep, walked in and he was just like, "Vaffanculo Americana." And I was just like, buongiorno piccolo penne uomo. Like, hello, you small dicked man, And it was like a record scratched in the entire place, and everybody just started busting up laughing. And the shopkeeper looked at me with this like amazed look on his face. He's like, "Finalmente, like finally, you're learning." And I'm like, "You were literally gonna cuss me out for years
Every day.
and
Every
not say
day.
anything." But it just, yeah. So he would test me every time I come there. He would, say like "cool" or like, ass or whatever to me, because
Yeah.
he'd slap the meat and say ass, and I'd be like, "I know what you're doing." But it was, and I know that sounds like, he's being gross or whatever, but it really was just this, can I
Yeah.
needle you enough to get you to pay attention? And then when I went in and I started talking to him more, I was like, why? Why did you put me through the motions that way? And he said, because you Americans, you come in, you consume and you leave,
Exactly.
and you don't take
Exactly.
with you
You
the
don't learn the
experience.
culture, you don't experience. You come in and a lot of them do that. Like you said, a lot of them don't even leave base.
Yeah, and that's what
So,
my beginning was, and I wasn't going to end that way. So, because of him, I was able to make connections with other shopkeepers in the area. And then, like whenever I was giving like canning lessons or preserving lessons, I made a deal with the guy who sold the jars. I made a deal with the guy who sold the fruit. I made like all of those things just because that
yeah.
one guy was like, "Oh, okay, you're learning, so let's extend that now to what else would you like to do? What else do you need help with?"
Yeah.
And it was great. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Italy
Because
was
Lord knows we went through lots and lots of fruit.
Yeah.
Lots of we're going to Dom's house for the day. What are we doing today? Cherries, strawberries, pineapple one time. I don't even remember.
Yeah, we did a lot. I was so
Um,
into flavor craze. Like I wanted to try every flavor possible. And that
the
was
black and blue is still Byron's favorite. He doesn't eat any other jelly but that. And he's like, "Can we get more of that?" I'm like, that was homemade, right?" He's like, "Yeah, but that's so much better than store bought." Yeah, that's the point.
that's the point. Yeah.
That's such the point. And they rag me so hard now because I mean, we can so much stuff, and they're like, God, Mom, we're not gonna go through this much jelly, but yeah, it's there if you want it.
Hmm.
And I give it out as Christmas presents and everything. And everybody's like, yay. Like
Oh yeah.
I just made homemade vanilla in March. I've got a whole bunch of it.
Like
So I'm just
homemade
waiting.
vanilla extract or
Yeah, yeah,
oh, that's
yeah. I've
awesome. Yeah,
got
I do the
tons
same.
and tons of jars. So that's what I'm probably going to give out as Christmas gifts.
I do the same thing. Like usually around early summer, I'll put like and I'll put two different kind. I'll put spiced rum and vanilla together so I get the spicy vanilla, and then I also have like the vodka vanilla. But I started doing this other thing where I will steep fruit into the vodka for like a long while. Like I have strawberry vodka right now sitting somewhere, like strawberry hooch at this point, because it's
Sitting
just
somewhere.
yeah, it's doing somewhere because I'll whatever I don't can, I always reserve like the last little bit of fruit that's not going to go to jam or not going to go into a salad or something, and I'll stick it into a tiny little 8 ounce canning jar and just throw some vodka on top of it, so it'll be that flavored vodka, and then
Yeah.
I'll take the vanilla and I'll make a raspberry vanilla or a strawberry vanilla extract, and I'll put that into cookies or pies or whatever. It's so good.
I'll have to try that
So
next.
just a tip for yeah.
Yay.
So, okay, so when we first met, we were definitely in different, like way different places than we are now. And this is telling of the power of social media, right? Like how long ago did we meet?
11, 12 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, I think so, because Jacob was
Little.
itty. Yeah, itty
He
bitty.
still had choo choo. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
I still have choo choo in the Demijohn.
Oh
I
my
still
God.
have that choo choo in the Demijohn
Do you
somewhere.
still really?
I do. I
Oh
never
my
took it out.
gosh. Oh
I
my
never took
gosh.
it out. I got it out after you picked him the kids up that day. And then before we moved, I just stuck it back down in there, and that's where it stayed this whole time.
That is
So,
well, you have a little piece of my son in your house.
yeah, I got your DNA in my house, Tom.
Oh my God. So that would put us, yeah, he was born in 2010. So
Is
that,
he still the record holder for the biggest baby?
no, he was not. He was for the longest time. So my son, when he was born, he was 10 pounds, 2.7 ounces, and he held the record at the Naples Support Activity Hospital for like the longest time. And then the year that we left in 2013, there was a 14-pound baby born there.
Oh my
Um,
vagina.
the mom had undiagnosed diabetes, like gestational
Ah,
diabetes. So they
that
didn't
that
know
makes
why.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because a friend of mine worked at the hospital and she called me. She's like, well, somebody bested your son finally. And I was like, oh,
By
good.
a lot. She's like,
Yeah.
ain't nobody breaking this record
Right?
ever.
Yeah. So that was, yeah, it was,
She had a damn toddler.
I'm telling you, that was, yeah, reading that, I was just like, there's no way. I don't
Yeah.
know how that mom did it. And I have a friend of mine who had a kid who was 14 pounds. And I was just like, you owe your wife so much.
So much stuffs. Yeah, mine progressively got bigger, but Mallory was only 8'6" when she was born. So
Wow.
I couldn't even imagine 10.
Yeah,
So
he was not, well, I knew he was going to be big just because Gwen was big, and Gwen was 9 pounds, I want to say like 13 ounces. Like she was up there, and I knew she would be big, but she was easier than Abby was. And Abby was only like a 7 pound baby. But like my other two, they took after me because one was almost 10 pounds, one was over the 10-pound mark. And the
oh.
doctor literally was like, unless you intend on having a 12-pound baby, I would stop. I was just like, yeah, no.
Because they only get progressive. Byron was 6'9", but he was almost 4 weeks early. Alex was seven. No, Byron was 6'13". Alex was 7'9". Mallory was 8'6". I still couldn't imagine a 10 point something because all my kids had big ass melons. Like Alex was vacuum assisted,
Oh
so
my goodness.
I just no. Yeah, I'm done. And it it doesn't help that, Byron's 19, Alex is 16, and Mallory just turned 6 Friday. So there's this ginormous age gap. So I'm walking into the pre-K center, all my gray hairs and all these young moms in their spandex and their Uggs with their Starbucks. And I'm
Oh
like, yeah, I
God.
feel really fucking old right now. Thanks.
Yeah, even, having Jacob at 30, I felt like, oh, okay, this is, and I know it was probably coming from this, there was a big age group, but, not age group, age gap between,
Yeah, yeah.
Gwen and Jacob. And that was only 5 years, but I still felt like, I should have had, a kid closer to her age range because, man, they fought so bad. Abby and Jacob were like peas and carrots. Everything was great. Those two just,
And
like at
it's
all
the
time.
same thing with my three. Byron has so much patience for Mallory. He entertains her, when he's here anyway. She thinks the world of him. She calls Alex stupid. They constantly fight, they constantly pick. Every now and again, he will play with her on the Wii, or he will play with, like he played with her in the bounce house on Saturday or Friday, whatever day it was now. I don't even know. But most of the time it's the same. They're cats and dogs with each other. And I'm like, good God. But my brother, who's 2 years younger than me, he started later. So his youngest is 2.5 months older than Mallory, and his daughters are closer to Mallory's age. So she has kids to play with. Um, and I don't feel like I need to have another one. Alex got fixed real quick. Like, it doesn't help that, he had black hair. So he is really gray at 44. People mistake him for his 50s easily. The school wants him to play Santa. He's gotten so gray here lately.
Oh no.
But I will never forget. Let's see, we were Christmas shopping for stocking stuffers at Five Below. And so she wasn't even, she was a month and a half old, and I had her in the stroller. And this little blonde cashier, when we went to check out, she says, "Is this your granddaughter?"
No.
Bitch. No.
Oh my God.
And it's happened recently too with a semi coworker, the bus garage director. We were talking about the stop, right? Because they made a stop for Mallory at my work, and he was like, "Yeah, you pick up your granddaughter there, right?" Terry, I'm never fixing a dirt road for you ever again. Don't ever call me for nothing. She was like, "I'm so sorry."
Oh my God.
So yeah, I don't recommend having a kid at 36 at all whatsoever. Mm-mm.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. At 42, I can't. I think it's just because I feel like my independence once they get out of the house has been hard won. I don't need to go back. And
I didn't think about that. I met Alex, and I guess this stems into another question. Jason and I got divorced. We got here, and I met Alex, and I knew Alex from school. Alex had no idea that I existed. He was a football jock and whatnot. But anyway, I was really good friends with his younger brother. And one of the times I had a blow up on Facebook about, I'm not engaged, I'm not even dating. He messaged me and he's like, "I've got somebody you could talk to." And I'm like, no. No. And he's like, "Yeah." And he lives in South Carolina because, he's Marine. He's like, "No, my brother." And I was like, "Your brother's married." And he's like, "Oh, he's going through divorce." I was like, "Have him contact me when it's done. I'm not trying to be the other woman." And, but anyway, so he has no kids. So I was like, "You need that. You need that experience." He's like, "No, your boys are fine." I should have left it at that because, good Lord, she tries me. I'll let her come in here in a minute and let you talk to her, and you'll see what I mean. She tries me on a daily.
She's your
It's
little mini me.
that she is. And I swear to God, when she hits her teens, we're going to come to blows, and I'm going to be wearing inmate orange. I mean, it's inevitable at this point because, oh, the mouth on that child already at 6. I'm like, is this what having girls is like? Just the other day on the way home Thursday, I had called Alex and I was like, "Hey, did you stop and get coffee and creamer on the way home? Because I'm not doing without it in the morning." He's like, "No, I didn't. You need to stop and grab it." And I was like, "Okay, so you want me to stop at the dollar store, or you just want to go to the grocery store after dinner?" He's like, "We can go to the grocery store after dinner." Okay, cool. So we get in the car and we're riding home. She goes, "Mama, you got to go to the store." I said, "No, we're going to go after dinner." "No, I want to go to the store now." I said, "No, we're going after dinner, and Daddy's going to go too." She goes, "If I was your mom, I wouldn't let you do anything." Immediately, I called my mom. I said, "Elizabeth, you need to come get your granddaughter." And she's like, What happened?" And so I told her what happened. All she does is laugh. She's like, "Paybacks are hell."
Yeah.
She's like, you remember that time you shot me a bird that you thought was behind my back and I beat your ass? Yeah, this is payback. And she's
Oh.
laughing the whole time. She's telling me, this is payback. I was like, all right, I'm hanging up with you now because this wasn't productive at all. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, no. I think so starting with girls and having two girls and having them be very close in age, they just ganged up on me all the time, and I just felt like,
Believe it.
and then when they hit their teenage years, like their dad and I had very different approaches to parenting. Like he was the one that was like, if they do something wrong, he's from Texas, get a belt. And I just never subscribed to that belief that you have to hit a
Yeah.
child to get them to you listen.
Yeah.
But
That was Jason. That was Jason in a heartbeat.
and I was very much, mindful of that. So I got him to get away from that ideal. But so I just wanted to keep talking to the kids, like, let's talk about this. Like, why did you do this? And talking is great. However, I was not great on follow through, like consequences and stuff, because it wasn't that I was trying to be their friend. I just didn't want to hurt their feelings. So that kind of, yeah, as older teenagers, they have decided that they're going to leverage the art of negotiation and argument with me on everything. So by the time I'm like, why can't you just listen and do the thing that I asked you to do? And they're like, well, let's talk about this. Why should we have to do? And I'm like, God damn it. Like I know.
That, that's Alexander to a T, and he's like 6'2" now.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, so he puts his elbow on my head, and he's like, "Mom, this is what I want to do." And that, or like if we start talking and I tell him no because of this, and he's like, "What sense does that make? Because if I was to do this, da 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 da, da, you wouldn't do it." And I'm like, I'm not you. I'm telling you what to do. So he does it too. It's I think it's just a straight up teenager thing.
It has to
But
be.
I will say raising the boys earlier in life was easier. Now they're just like, yeah, I'm bigger than you. I don't have to listen to you. And Jason's not here, and Jason's made it quite clear that Alex is not allowed to lay a hand on them, and they know it. So they push me because
Yeah, like family dynamic changing and stuff. Yeah, that has been a difficult thing because my girls push back on,
yes,
who's in the house outside of me, because they're like, well, you're not dad. And I've got my mother living with us as well. So it's very much like, okay, I don't have to listen to you because you're not my mom, and I don't have to listen to you because you're not my dad. So mom gets all of it, and
yeah,
it's so frustrating because you want that extra backup when they just decide, you're enemy number one. And you're just like, okay,
right,
listen, I'm not enemy number one because one, I want to keep you safe, and two, I want to keep you from doing stupid things. Um,
yes,
but you should also listen to the advice of the other adults in the house, because we have this collected number of years of experience that we would hope you would listen to. But all they hear is, let me tell you about, and it's like,
they
just,
they hear wah 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 wah
yeah.
wah.
And what's great about my oldest, like Abby, she's getting to the point now where she's starting to understand, and it's taken her a little bit
Mhm.
longer. But I think that's the difference between raising children overseas and then raising children in the United States, because we, as a collective and as a teacher in that public school collection, area as well, parents do leave a lot of the parenting to public spaces versus, the parents at home, the extended family and stuff like that. So in Italy, it was very much, it takes a village, and
Right,
everybody's utilized. And here it's almost like we throw parenting on public service people or people who are in the public education space, and then we blame them for the children not turning out the right way.
right,
And it's such a horrible place to be in, because I've had conversations where I've had to call home and say, okay, we have to talk about Johnny's behavior today because he cussed out a couple kids, he did this. And the question that comes back to me is, well, what did you do? How did you cause that? And I'm just like, hold on a second. You have sent your child to me for 8 hours a day. I am responsible for this much of their life. If you, collectively put it all together, this
right.
much of their life, but somehow I'm to blame for why your child is acting out the way that they are when they've had
Yeah.
12 plus years with you and they've had a month with me. But somehow it's
Hmm.
my fault,
Yep.
and what was great about being in Italy for the longest time with the girls as they were growing, because we moved to Italy when Abby was only 14 months old. and we
Mhm.
didn't leave until she was almost 12. So she
Yeah.
was there for the
Yeah, you were
majority
there
of
for
her
a long
life.
time.
Yeah, and she got that whole it takes a village experience only to move to the United States where it's very much only us in the house and only school, figures. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody else minds their business, everybody does. And so she was always in everybody's business. And and I had to like remind her like this is different, you don't get to do that.
You
But
can't do that here.
no, so she's starting to get the idea like I approach it like that. I approach everything as it takes a village. I still do. And
Mhm.
when I get pushback from parents on that, then I'm like, okay, so it's not your vibe or your tribe or whatever. So this is what I need for you to do on your end of this so that I can do my end then. If you want to
Mhm.
keep it compartmentalized between those two things.
Right.
But Gwen, I think, has had a different experience because she was born there and then we left when she was about 9.
Mhm.
So for her, she still did the majority of her
Of her
adolescence
growing up, yeah.
in
Here, yeah.
the United States where she just only got that portion. And Jacob was, we got here when he was 3. So
Yeah.
he's only ever had that. And Abby gets it. The other two don't. And she was difficult, but like the other two are just they're playing me.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel that to my soul.
Well, what did you know that was like notice that was difference between like a difference between having kids overseas versus here? Like what are the big things that stand out?
Like you said, it's the whole it takes a village. Like there with but I will say here with my tribe, with my best friends, they are quick to smack my children and I don't it doesn't bother me. But if you go to somebody else's house and you like raise your voice at their child and they're like, how dare you? Like, I will tell you, we just had a birthday party yesterday.
Hmm.
So I had a whole hell of a lot of kids running around my house. And I will just say, just my brother, for instance, we'll just go ahead and throw a family under the bus. They don't parent very well. They don't redirect when their child is doing something wrong and say, no, you shouldn't do that. Here's what you should do. They just let them do it. Like
Hmm.
my nephew that is only a little bit older than Mallory, he's on the autism spectrum. And instead of redirecting him when he does something that he shouldn't do, they just let him go caveman. And when he's done, he's done. Um, so he'll come over here and he'll jump all over my couch and, run through my furniture. And I'm like, you can't do that. And then now, oh, get down, you know, and but that's the way some of the people parent in the United States. Like everybody knows your drink and your food stays in the dining room or the kitchen unless you're an adult or you have water. That's it. Those are the only exceptions. But yet yesterday, even after hearing me tell 3 kids, you need to take that to the table or to the bar, they're in there in my living room with the cake, and I'm going, and I'm looking at Alex, and Alex is looking at me. And finally, my cousin seen it, and she's like, "Hey, you need to come back in here." But I mean, so it's just I got used to the whole it takes a village too, and I'm going to yell at your kid just as quick as you're going to yell at your kid if your kid's doing something incorrectly or out of line in my space, just because I don't know, I got used to it, and I'm loud as hell anyway. I think I'll ever I think, and my brothers always they warn their girlfriends, my sister's very loud. If she doesn't like you, she's going to tell you, take her with a grain of salt, and if she makes you cry, take it to the bathroom. So, it is what it is. It is what it is.
They have
But
a
I
whole like warning system for
yes, they do. And they'll flat out tell you, oh, your brother warned me, but you're cool as shit. I'm like, yeah, I think it's like pre-programmed into them now. They have to say, she's going to cuss you out if you do anything she doesn't like, just so you know. So I think it's just, it comes pre-programmed in all 6 of them. So, um, but anyway, so getting back to here, I don't know. The only thing I miss about Italy and being on base was the close knit, the fact that, well, I walked everywhere for one. But I have 3 best friends one died last year, but the other two, I just seen the one yesterday for the first time in I don't know 4 or 5 months. But on base, I was used to seeing everybody, almost daily because
Yeah.
we were all so close and we all hung out so much, and I do miss that close knit part to where we were always together. But then I also don't miss the gossip and the fishbowl effect and
Hmm.
and all that either.
Yeah,
And
that was my biggest thing of like wanting to live out in town because
yeah,
I
yeah,
couldn't.
I couldn't get Jason to do it, which I mean, the one thing that my whole marriage fell apart the whole time we were there, and I really didn't talk. I mean, I think I touched on it with you guys one day while we were canning one time, but I really didn't talk about it much. I tried to make it look like I was, but it was one of the best times and one of the worst times wrapped up in
Mhm.
the same ball.
Right.
And I always say I want to go back, but with someone that actually wants to be there with me. So that's what I say now. Now, if we can ever afford to go back like that, me and Alex are going to go.
Yeah, and you should go back and revisit those places that you wanted to find joy in, only to have it like snatched away in little pieces. Because it
Yeah.
being there was a relationship saver for my ex-husband and I when we first moved there because we had been separated prior to moving to Italy. And that's what saved us because then we realized like okay, at this point we really don't have anybody but each other. And then to find
Right.
out I was pregnant like right when we landed, I was like, well, I guess destiny had other things in mind. So that was fine, and we did really get close. But then like you said, it was that fishbowl effect because I worked on base at the CDC, which is the child development center. I was able to send my kids to the child development center, so I was working and sending them to the school, same place that I was working in every day. I could just walk to the exchange and the comm center and then head home, and it was like all
Yeah.
within like a 1 mile
And
radius of each other. So it was great. However, when Facebook came along and then Facebook started blowing up, then all these little pocket groups, support site, spousal club or whatever. And it was just like, oh, okay, so I get to go meet more people that live here instead of just walking past them and going, gee, I wonder who lives up there without balcony. And I wonder who.
mhm.
So it was great until it wasn't because then
Yes.
the gossiping started
And the
and
drama
the
and
dramas just,
and you in the spouse page, you couldn't post anything without being bashed or judged. It was crazy.
and you would
Say
think,
hi. Hey.
hey, yeah, you would think having this overseas experience would bring a tighter knit group together to sit there and go, okay, well, I support you. I
Yeah.
am here just in case you need anything, which I did find eventually, but only by way of creating my own little like thing that I could do because I
Yeah.
when we switched over from military to civilian and I couldn't work on base anymore because I
Yeah.
didn't have that ability to get that type of visa. It was okay, well, what can I do? And it wasn't
Mhm.
much. It was like if I could find a contract position myself, great, I could work, but I couldn't because there was like maybe five out of all of the different jobs that they had on the base. Most of them were for military personnel and their spouses only.
And then you became the canning
And
lady.
then I became the canning lady. Yeah, I literally had a Facebook group, a marketplace stand at this spousal
Yep.
market that they would put up once or twice a month. I can't remember if it was twice a month.
I
Um,
think it was just once. I
Yeah.
don't know.
And I know that they did special ones for after like events and stuff. So I think it it
Mhm.
it almost was twice a month, but only by way of like if there were special other things going on at the same time. But
Yeah.
yeah, we had the Canning Italy. That was what I decided to create. And I ended up teaching how to salsa, how to jam, how
Mhm.
to jelly, how to
Yeah.
can. And I created a very awesome group of ladies that wanted to come and meet. And I met fan- fantastic people from all over the United States who
Yeah.
had also were stationed with us. And I also met some people that were part of NATO. And I got to learn about their countries. I knew a lady from
Yeah.
Australia that was there with NATO. And then there was a Canadian family, Australian family, and then there was one from Belgium. So it was
Mm.
really, really cool to just where is everybody from? What are the experiences that you guys are having? And just
Yeah.
having that tight thing. But like just watching the stuff on Facebook explode, I was like, and I'm good. Like
Mm.
I don't need
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But it's very telling though, because coming out of living overseas and then life changing for both of us, the connections that
Mhm.
mattered stayed.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's
Like
why we're talking
there
today.
are there are chicks that I was super tight with. I won't name names because they might still be on your Facebook, that we don't talk at all now. There's one that's completely blocked me, and others that, yeah, we just don't like when I went through 10 profiles. Yeah, the ones that, like you said, the ones that matter stayed when Facebook kept deleting me.
Yeah.
What's Mary gonna come back as this week?
What'd you end up in jail for now?
No, it was just the one thing, the little girl that sent Byron nude pics, and I cropped it from collarbones up, and I was like, which one of y'all's baby's kid is this, so I can tell you, does anybody
Hmm.
know this chick's, and they completely wiped my shit, and all they would say was, you violated Facebook community standards. How? What did I do? And then every time I created a profile after that, it would last anywhere from a couple weeks to a week to a couple minutes. And finally, on account 10, I started using a completely separate phone and only logged in on that phone. And I was like, that's it. They were getting from me logging in on the same device, no matter what account it was.
Hmm.
I mean, I had one account I only logged in on my work computer, or one that I only logged in here at the house, and so I don't log in on this. And I've had this account now for, I don't know, 3 years or so, maybe four, because I still have memories of Mallory turning two on this profile. So I've had it for 4 years, and it took me buying a new phone, and I don't log into um, this account on my old laptop that I used to have here. So I've been able to keep it that way, but I don't have my cell phone number attached to my account. It was crazy. And they would never, and I appealed it like 3 times, and they would never tell me exactly why it got deleted, why I was completely banned and couldn't have an account. It was crazy.
Hmm.
But so I lost a lot of connections then through all that, when it was people that I associated with, or, I hung out from time to time with there, that I just didn't remember enough to add back. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
every now and then I'll see somebody a comment on somebody's page, like your page or Shirley's page, or whatever, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about this person. Let me add them back.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the ones that needed to stay stayed. So
Yeah. I've gone through filters, right? Like the filtering process of like
yeah.
you hit something and you're like, does this person really matter in
Mm-hmm.
my life, like in a way where I would call them up if something was going on, or
Right.
if I posted some big, huge life event, would they not so
Would
much
they
as
even?
even like it or say, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, like
I'm so
that's,
sorry. I'm here for you. Whatever. If we're not on that level, why do you need to spy on what I post? Because Lord knows I post everything,
well,
everything.
but I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day that I was interviewing for this, and we talked about like what being vulnerable on social media looks like versus just bitching to bitch, and I said what,
Right.
and I really did admire her ability to be vulnerable and open with her own stuff that she's going through on Facebook, because she does know that the people on her list are effectively the only people that really matter enough to tell
Right.
anyway. So that's why she
Right.
doesn't have a problem being like that. And then I also admire people like you who are able to just go like, what's wrong with the world? Let me tell you what's wrong with the world, and then you just be able to like speak
And
your
it's
piece.
that.
Yeah, and no, and it might get you in trouble, but at least you're being authentic,
Right.
and it's not in a way that's super attacky. Like I've never seen you come after people to where you're attacking them for how they believe or what they say. Like the only
I've never attacked somebody for what they believe, but I think my sister and I have went back and forth several
no.
on Facebook. But yeah, for the most part, you're going to get exactly how I feel. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm
Mhm.
definitely not going to put on a fake face. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like everybody should be that way. It's not all rainbows and puppies and butterflies. And so if that's all you post, everybody knows you're damn lying.
Yeah,
So what's the
exactly.
point? So
Okay,
just like,
so
go ahead.
going with that one. Okay, so going with that one, knowing that I don't have to really ask you questions about like, well, what are you going through, Mary? Like, what's happening with you? Like, I know because you're just like, this is what's happening.
This is
So
it.
so just based on the stuff you've seen me post, what could you tell me that you understand about my experience, my life?
I know that you're happy now.
Yeah.
And you can see it. It just it radiates, and you're in such a better place. It's not a dark place. You're always smiling now, and I would have loved to have had you as a teacher. I could tell you that.
Oh. Well,
You
thank
know,
you.
I see your TikToks, and I'm like, yeah, if my teachers would have been like that. I paid attention anyway, but still, you're relatable to the kids, and you posted something a while ago, and I think I shared it. It was where you asked their letters.
Oh, their COVID responses. It was
Yes,
like if like
yes,
what is COVID? What has happened during COVID to you, like for you? And
yeah.
while I was expecting a lot of like I can't go out and play with my friends, I can't interact on the playground anymore, and this was all during lockdown, but it was
Mhm.
the answers that these sixth graders were giving me
Right, right.
was just heartbreaking. And,
Hmm.
some of them had lost family members in different states. And one of the kids had stated, I just lost my grandfather and I can't go to his funeral and I can't.
Because of COVID, yeah.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then one of the kids had also shared that his mom and dad were fighting about whether or not COVID was real. And in the middle of their fight, found out that her brother had just died of it.
Oh
And
wow.
she was the one saying it wasn't real. So
Mm,
having that epiphany happen to his parents right in front of him and
yeah.
then discussing that with us, I was just like, well, and I could not back away from that discussion. And I just kept pressing forward. And I'm like, well, what did that make you realize about being an adult? And he just came out, he was like that it's okay to make mistakes and sometimes you have to learn the hard way. And I was like,
Yep.
yeah, that every day we learn those things. And
Yep.
sometimes you just never stop learning. And
Hmm.
I started making the TikToks because I had a student back when I first started teaching in 2016 show up and he came into my classroom. He was like, Miss Yerman, I think you need to have a TikTok because you are fabulous. And he was like doing this big, huge theatrical entrance. And I was like, not realizing he was making a TikTok at that moment. And back then it was known as Musically or something. So
Mm.
when he showed it to me, I was like, this is hilarious, and then he made it into a Vine. And then when TikTok finally became TikTok, I still had that in my drafts. And I was like, this is crazy because this is what kids are going to remember about their teacher, the one who
Hmm.
was willing
Yeah.
to be vulnerable and funny with them versus
Hmm.
the teacher is like, get out of here with that. I don't subscribe to that nonsense, And I'm like,
Right.
Ish, I'm not going to be old until I'm ready to be old. So I will be clowning it up with these kids
Exactly.
on TikTok until I'm 90.
And they'll remember for you that, or they'll remember you for that.
Right.
So
But yeah, no,
versus
I am
the
happy now.
old
So thanks
crotchety
for,
one that, won't let them do anything.
oh yeah, and there's enough of that. There's enough of that. And thankfully most of them are retiring soon. So, you know, I,
But that's one thing I'm not super big into. You don't see me post about politics and all that stuff like some people do. Some of my friends, it's just like, sweet Jesus, okay, you simmer down now where you can run against whoever the hell you keep talking about, because this is getting ridiculous.
yeah, politics
I,
have caused it to be it's very difficult to speak it goes back to that whole speech, from your parents, we don't talk about Jesus or politics at the table, like because those will be the things that have chairs.
everybody's going to be fighting, and
Yeah.
nobody can used to it. Okay, you like who you like, I like who I like, whatever, we can still be friends, just just like it goes down to football. I'm a Gators fan, Alex is a Seminole fan, so there's one day a year that we are super divided in this house, but I still love him. He says that marrying him was the one smart thing I did as a Gator fan, you
Oh.
know. But it's so, if you're a Republican and I'm a Democrat or vice versa, it's not like we can't be friends. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So you believe what do you believe? I believe what I believe, and if we disagree, let's talk about canning.
Right. And I think that's the part where people have a hard time differentiating, right? That's like, well, how could you stand for the party that does this? How could you stand for the party that does that? There's going to be accusations flying from both
From
sides of
both
it.
sides,
So,
exactly.
and there's going to be ideas about things that, whether they're valid or not, are going to bring strong emotions out. And
Yep.
I am of the mindset that I agree. You can believe what you believe. I will believe what I believe. And the more people subscribe to that live and let live, idea of we don't all have to match. We don't all have to agree. Yes, we can agree on like the fundamentals of stuff. Human rights, that is a thing. Civil rights,
Yeah.
that is a thing. Science is a
Hmm.
thing, but
Hmm.
as far as, well, your party is super this, okay, elements of that party, yes. Like it's
Hmm.
not me. It's not a me thing. So just because I
Yes.
subscribe to this idea, that
Hmm.
doesn't mean that I am on a fundamental level pro-life or pro-abortion, or I'm, either one. It's just that's that is the biggest divisive topic right now, I think, is just like the abortion issue between
Yes. Yes.
Republican and Democrat and all that. But I will say, when we first met, I was still trying to figure out what my politics were at that time, and going to college completely opened up my mind on that, because before that it was very much my ex-husband's voice coming out of my mouth whenever it came
Yeah.
to political ideas and stuff, because he was very vocal about it, and I didn't really understand a lot of the intricate, things, and how all of these things wove together. And I didn't really understand why he was so passionate about it. But he grew up in a very political church based household. And
Hmm.
a lot of Texans are. And it was, for me, I grew up in a very different type of childhood. Like I grew up all over the United States, mostly in very Democrat places. California,
Hmm.
Hawaii, it was a very diverse population no matter where we went. So the idea of color entering into how you segregate or not segregate yourself, that wasn't even a thing to me. Everybody was in the same place. So why would you need to do that? So
Hmm.
marrying somebody who had those ideas, and him being very divisive himself on what he presented as the end all be all answer for things, and who we would
Hmm.
be around and who we wouldn't be around based on those divisive thoughts. I was still trying to figure things out. And I know that Obama was president when we first met. And I was very much like, yeah, I don't understand all of this, but I want to know why my ex-husband is so angry about all of this, or why is this, treated, why if Obama speaks he gets triggered, like what is so bad about that? And the more I started to fight back when I had my own ideas on things, that was the end for us,
Yeah,
because
you said that, and I was like, "Damn, was that really that long ago?" Did you
yeah,
see my face when you were like, "Obama was?" I was like, "Shit,
yeah.
was he really president back then?" Good
Yeah.
God, time is flying.
Yeah, and but that was the thing. Like, we moved to Hawaii in 2013, and I think 3.5 years later, I was ready to walk, because he had become this completely different person. I know for a fact I was a completely different person, and I had been very unhappy for a very long time. It's just I didn't know how to recognize it, communicate it, any of those things. And I think it started about the time that he cycled out of the military, because, and this is another big thing, like, having been a military spouse, the both of us,
Mhm.
the military does not do well when it comes to supporting people cycling out of the military. There
Mhm.
are things that they say they put in place, but in reality, there are so many veterans with crisis mode in their mental health space when they leave, that there's not enough catch-alls for those people.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I watched him spiral many different ways, and it just bled into, he just became this completely different person. There was nothing else there to help him figure it all out. He threw himself into work, but when it came to being a parent and a full-time spouse, like, he couldn't handle it. And I think that's what
Yeah.
eventually ended it for us, because he was also very indoctrinated into the belief that, men have to be a certain thing and women have to be a certain other thing. And I was
Mhm.
not going to adhere to those gender things that he wanted to do. And being
Yeah.
overseas allowed for him to live in that bubble of, well, men go to work and women stay home and do the womanly things, but that was my only option. So coming
Yeah.
out of that and cycling back into like United States frame of mind stuff, and him having no support systems in place, that just, anything that we had created or built up, it just very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he started with the lying before he even left Italy, and I caught him in so many. Which before, we tried to do therapy while we were still in Italy, and the therapist was like, because he did a year in Bahrain and then turned around and volunteered for a year in Afghanistan back to back. So he got to come home for leave in between for like a couple weeks. So then he did the year in Afghanistan and then he come back and then we went to Italy. So, the therapist is like, well, you're having to learn to live together again and you're having to learn to live together in another country and adapt to that culture. And, and he never wanted to do the homework. And then he met her while he was there, and he started the lying, and I was just miserable, and that's why I ended up hanging out with my friends so much because when we got to Washington, it was really bad. And I told him because we came first and we went come and visit in Florida for a little while for my family, and then we went to Texas and was visiting with his family, and then we were supposed to go from Texas to Washington while he was in some school in Missouri, I think it was, from Italy. Um, and I had done caught him in Rome, Florence, Pisa with her because back then it was when Facebook chat, you could click on the chat and
Mm,
it showed you the location where Facebook chat was sent.
yeah.
And I'm like, hey, why are you in Pisa when I asked you to go somewhere as a family for a week before we left and you said you didn't have the money? Also, how are you in Pisa without pulling any money out of our joint account? And it just all these lies that he thought he got away with. And I was like, look, if you don't want to be with me, tell me now while I'm in Florida. I'll stay here. You can go wherever the hell you want to go. And, we'll just go for it. I said, no, I love you. I want to be with you. I want to be with you and the kids, blah, blah, blah. So then I went to Texas. And then the house that we have in Texas, the AC went out. So I had to enroll the boys in school because I had to spend all the money that we have saved up to get a rental in Washington on this AC. So I enrolled the boys in school for like 3 months while he was in school in Missouri. And then he come back, and then had to have his appendix out. Alexander did,
Yeah.
literally the day before we left, and he's on the phone with her outside the hospital room while I'm inside the hospital room with Alex. It was just it was crazy. But at the time, I didn't know that. And then we went to Washington, and Washington, I loved it up there. It's very gorgeous up there. I love the weather being a Floridian and hating the heat. So, but up there, I was very lonely because I didn't have any friends up there. Renee, I got to see her every so often. I would see her, and then Charlisa was up there too after a while. But it was the whole okay. Well, you've got to go drive to this point, take a ferry over to Whidbey, and
Right.
then so but he would I could be in the best mood, singing, cleaning the house, playing with the kids, and he would walk in the door and it would just this Eeyore cloud would just hang over me, and then I'd just be pissed, and I started taking it out on the kids because he would come in and he would get out of his uniform and he would go sit in a beanbag. I mean, we didn't even touch from the time he walked in the door to the time we laid down, and then he'd want to ask. We barely speak unless it had to do with the kids. And that's the way let's see, how long were we there? 8 months we were in Washington. That's the way it was. And then finally Father's Day weekend, I had went to stay with Shirley and Dwayne. And we went to Deception Pass and we're just sitting on the beach, sitting on the rocks, and we were talking about it. And I was like, I'm done. I don't think anything's going to change. I keep begging him for this, and it's not happening. And we've just grown into two different people.
Hmm.
And then, before I even got to Florida, so I load up the car. In the span of a week, I packed the whole entire house up. I arrange a mover. I get a loan so that, because I wasn't really working up there. So I get a loan so that I'm able to go across country and then support myself until I find something down here. So it was a 6-day drive, and I had broken up that way to where I didn't have the boys in the car that long because I think they were like, I don't know, 6 and 9 at the time we moved, or 7 and 10. I mean, Alexander was so young, I feel like. But anyway, before we had even made it halfway across the country, he was already in Hawaii with her on her dime, Fourth of
Yeah, I
July
remember
weekend.
you messaging me and asking me questions about Hawaii and like where things were locationally, where they were. And I was like, why,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on? And I thought, honestly, you were coming to visit or something, and that's why you were asking. So it was just like, oh no,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I mean, Hawaii is my home state. I love Hawaii, but at the same time, it's just like that was also the site of my own marriage completely falling apart.
Mhm.
So it's funny, but it's not so funny, you know. But
Yeah,
looking on this on the opposite side of it now, where we're both in such very different places and we're both very
absolutely.
much happier. It's
Mhm.
one of those things where it's like being a military spouse comes with its own degree of miserableness. But then when you add in, you know, where you are locationally with that miserableness and then the people around you being miserable, like sometimes
Absolutely.
it's amazing and other times it is just this horrendous thing you just have to survive. And
Yeah, I think that's why Italy, it was one of the best times and the worst times because I still had the friends to lean on, you know. In Washington, I had nothing. I had Sharlisa occasionally and Renee occasionally, and that's it. And so it was just me sitting on the bathroom floor crying because some shit had happened and he's outside in the truck on the phone. Now I know it was with her. So he's out there, you know, she's such a bitch. She's in there on the bathroom floor crying. I don't even want to go inside. There's no telling what he said. But anyway,
it
but
doesn't
yeah,
matter really. I mean,
yeah,
like
yeah. And so, and then, you know, everything's done a 360 and we're both happy and
Mhm.
I'm canning like an old lady,
And I'm
but you
not.
just,
I'm not. I
I,
made a little bit of jam over the summer and I ended up filling up like two large shelves of like IKEA bookshelves and you know and like everybody in my household is like who did you even make this for? And I I go back into my canning days for the marketplace at you know in Naples because I'm like okay we have to get and when we first moved here I think I made my very first because when I first moved to Washington and I moved up here, no job, no house, no apartment. I was living with
Mhm,
my best friend and we had actually met as you know, for we were 19 years old and we had moved into military housing and we were neighbors and we were both
mhm.
19 and in a weird synchronistic thing, our husbands also had the exact same birthday. And like you couldn't ask for weirder like but that's just how it happened but she and I got to be connected that way and we had been best friends for forever so when she found out like yes I'm finally leaving I'm doing the thing she was like great I've got rooms made up come stay with me as long as you need so I was living in her house and she was just like oh you might want to drive to Spokane because Spokane is this like amazing green belt you can drive around go see all these farms well that's like giving me keys to Candyland because that's exactly what I
Mhm.
did I went and dropped about $200 on produce and came back and I canned my ass off for 2 days. And by the time those 2 days were done, I had 200 jars of
Oh,
various things. And it was just like apple butters and peach butters and peach jams and like and the flavor parade that I like to do when I was in Italy, just all of these things. So I ended up before I left, I ended up handing her like 150 of those jars and like just give them away. Because obviously I have an issue, but I fall into the pattern of you know like I want to do it and I want to do it all you know so I do that and I threw myself into what I thought I did best to get my mind off of what was cycling through it which was not good
and it'll definitely get your mind off of everything else because
yeah
it's a lot of work.
it's very hands-on labor intensive but I think the outcome of that like when you can hold up a jar of jam and say like I picked the fruit, I cut it up, I mashed it, I cooked it, I flavored it, you know, I flavor towned it, whatever, however Guy
Mhm,
Fieri says. Like all of those things, like those were, and the great part about that was I was creating recipes that were mine. So a
mhm,
lot of the stuff that I used to do in Italy, those were my recipes. I didn't get those out of a book. I mean, I studied them. I did basics that I found from books, but then you know, I Dominiquified it. I added this spice to it or that flavor, that alcohol. I can't even remember how many alcohol jams I made, but those were fun, you know? So,
I've got one of them on the shelf right now. What was it? The strawberry daiquiri.
oh my gosh.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
The
my
daiquiris
favorite.
are the best. Daiquiri jams are good. Yeah. And if I could, I would probably still want to write my recipe book someday because I have all of these haphazard notes written inside, you know,
Yeah, it's like, "Hey, send me that recipe," and it's this long wrote out thing, and I'm like, "Damn, I thought she had a recipe." No, this is Dominique's recipe. You need to go on to Amazon and get the ball book that I have that it's specifically made to write down your canning recipes.
oh, really?
Yeah, I paid like $20 for it, but
Okay.
it's got the chick on the front that says something about grab your balls. It's canning season or something, and she's holding the jars. But it's because I mean, there's okay. We did potatoes last year. How long did we say we liked doing those for? Okay, because I do potatoes like my granny did potatoes. It's not like the USDA says you should do your potatoes and they come out like mashed potatoes. Granny said 26 minutes. And so I'm still alive after doing
Mm-hmm.
my potatoes for 26 minutes, but they're so good. Oh my God. But anyway, so that's the reason why we started doing the vegetables, because we had done potatoes, and we had planted a lot of potatoes with my dad, and my dad was like, all right, let's can. And he's like, I've got one canner and one burner, and I'm looking at all the potatoes we got, and I'm like, he's like, we could just trade out and rotate. I was like, no. So then we went and bought a burner and a canner and jars, and $400 later, Alex is like, oh my God. And he didn't grow up with all of it like I did. So he's like, sweet Jesus, what the hell? I said, it'll pay for itself. Don't worry. Don't worry. Just trust
Yeah,
me.
it does. It does
So,
though.
so then we've got the big ass number 3 wash tubs full of red new potatoes. And we ended up, it was an entire weekend thing. We picked them and washed them for the most part one day. And you got to get the skins off of them really
Mm-hmm.
good. And then by the next day, it's like, all right, I'm not even touching that second tub. So I called my best friend. And I was like, hey, you want potatoes? Bring your ass over here with some jars and I'll help you. I'll show you what to do and we can all get it done together. And it was a whole 3-day weekend of nothing but potatoes. And I think we ended up doing 86 quart jars
Oh
for
my
us
God.
here. I've still got potatoes from that season. It was what, 2 years ago now, 3 years? I don't even know. But anyway, and then my best friend went home with like 60 or 70 quarts. And I mean, that's a lot of friggin' work. So from there, it was like, I want to can everything,
Yep, that's what
And
hits.
so
That's what hits.
we got whiteacre peas and zipper peas and greens and corn. Don't do cream corn. It does not can.
Ew.
Um, it just, it's like corn. And I'm like, no,
Like mush?
I ruined my cream corn. No, it tastes like regular corn, not like the creamy cream corn.
Oh,
Because when
okay.
we do
Okay.
cream corn, we put it in quart bags and we freeze it. Well, we decided to can some this year. Don't ever do that. But anyway, so I mean, I've got green beans, I've got several different kinds of peas, I've got greens, I've got salsas, I've got spaghetti sauce, I've got the jams, I've got butters, I've got butter, milk. You can can milk and make it shelf stable. I did not know this.
Yeah, isn't that
So
crazy? Just
so much milk I had that when I went out of date, and I just pour it down. I could have, a day or so before that went out of date, I could have canned it, put it on the shelf, and it'd
hmm
still be good, and I'd still have that milk. I mean, but we've dry canned rice, we've dry canned grits, we dry canned flour, sugar, so that we have it all if we need it. Because there for a while it was like, oh my God, everybody's gonna die. We're not gonna have any food. Fuck that. Mary's got plenty of food.
Yeah,
Come on over.
exactly. So do you
I'll
think this is something that like everybody should learn how to do?
No, because somebody's going to fuck it up and get botulism and die and blame it on me. No, but to me, it is very therapeutic. Like I said, we all get on my back deck, and when we did greens, you get the stems out of the greens. Greens and potatoes take the fucking longest. Oh, and corn
Oh yeah.
take so it's like, listen. You come over, you help me get this shit done. I will send you home with jars of stuff. But it is something
Excuse
that
me.
that I think everybody should at least know how to do that way in case something does happen. But the main reason, and I mean, I've even got meat done that we've done pork, we've done chicken, we've done beef, um, beef stew. Like I could go take a can of chicken down, and I keep the juice that it's in because that's a great stock. But you just take it out of the jar and it shreds just like canned chicken you get at the store. Makes a great salad, like
Oh yeah,
chicken
I bet.
salad. Or Mallory is obsessed with my homemade chicken and stars, and it's so easy to come home and get vegetables that I've diced up and threw in the freezer and just throw them in the homemade chicken stock and get a can of that chicken down, shred it up real quick, throw it in there, and it's done as soon as it's warmed through. It's so easy to do that, and it makes it so easy during the week. Ah, shit, I didn't lay anything out for dinner. Oh, grab some hamburger meat. We're gonna have tacos, you know.
Hmm.
And the hamburger meat is the only thing that doesn't keep the same consist. It's like Taco Bell hamburger meat. You know how soft it
Oh
is?
yeah, yeah.
That's it. So if you want to, like, I would never put my canned hamburger meat in my spaghetti sauce because I want there to be a bite in the spaghetti sauce. So
Right.
I want that freshly cooked meat. But tacos and stuff like that, shit, yeah, throw it in there. Throw it in there.
It's that
And it,
was Yeah, that was one of my, I think my more grateful pieces about living overseas was because it forced me to have to live slower. And
mhm.
I
I,
know
I
that
miss that part.
for the longest time that, I would go every summer to go visit my grandparents in Arkansas, and they were very much like the slow life type of people. They had their own vegetable garden, their own, and they would have this giant patch of strawberries that they would grow, and they would not pick it until I had come to visit, and then we would all pick it together and go make jam and jellies. And where I was
Mhm.
living in California, especially Southern California, we always had the orange vendors on the side of the road trying to sell like the big bags of oranges and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was my experience. So I always, as a kid, internalized that and thought, oh, well, they just grew too much. And now they're trying to sell off whatever they, had too much of. So the very first time my grandfather tried to instill that into me, like, no, we eat what we grow and then we save the rest, was we had gone to go pick strawberries out of their little plot. And we
Mhm.
had these giant bags of strawberries. And I just kept thinking, well, okay. And then I asked my grandma, like, how much of this are we going to use? And so I held up a bowl and I'm like, so we're going to eat this. And I held up the other like giant bags of stuff that we had. And I was like, are we going to sell this? And my grandfather, I swear, was just like wanting to reach across and just smack the crap out of me. Like he was just like, what? Why would we sell that? And I was just like, well, what are we going to do with it? And my grandmother grabbed my hand, picked up the bowl that I had, showed us like, we're going to eat this, and was like, I'm going to teach you how to make jelly. And that was my first introduction into like what this all means. And we go into the kitchen and she puts it down on the kitchen table and she says, every morning you have strawberry jelly. Where do you think that comes from? And I was like, the store. And she goes, do you see a label on any of the jars that I take out for you? No, and then it's like when I started making that
And then it
connection.
starts clicking. Yeah.
And that's when she was like, let me show you. So then she opened up her pantry all the way. And I saw the section that was just nothing but jars and jars of things that she had made and preserved, and pickles
Mhm.
and cucumbers and like all of these things. And I was just like standing there with my eyes like, bleh, because coming from a city-fied girl who only knew grocery stores and orange vendors, like that was the extent of things.
Yeah.
So at 6 years old, she had me in that kitchen for the rest of that week cooking jams and jellies. And we would go,
Mallory loves
um,
to make.
oh yeah, and then we would go to my Uncle Riley's place that was a little farther down, and they had a big giant potato field. So all the cousins would go out and pick our potatoes, and then they would fry them up for us, or they would preserve them,
Mhm.
and green beans. And she had this like my aunt Edna had a giant cornfield. So we would have to go out and pick
Mhm.
our own corn and then bring it back. And yeah, so it was like that was my indoctrination that summer on what
Yeah.
it means to live by what you do. And
Yeah.
that had always stuck with me, but I'd never had the chance to sit down with it and really utilize what I had learned until we were in Italy and we were finally able to like be free and out on
Mhm.
the economy.
Yeah.
And we were in a very agricultural based town because the
Mhm.
whole entire town was built on somebody's agrotismo or something, or just their field in general. And even
Yeah.
our landlords who owned all of this property had this big plot in between two of their houses that was specific just for them to farm. So they
Mhm.
would plant their tomatoes and their eggplants together. They would have a giant trellis of cucumbers and zucchini going. They would be raising a hog in that exact same space. So that way, that was the hog they were going to, unfortunately
Make
slaughter at Christmas, and
bacon.
like the whole thing. But we got to go through that whole process and see it, and our kids got to also
Mhm.
see it. So it was never a
Yeah.
question as to what needs to be preserved, what needs to be used. And wasting food drives me crazy. So when I have to go through
Mhm.
the kitchen, and I'm like, "Oh, I can't believe I have to throw this away, you guys didn't use it," and they get the, oh, okay, mom, but like at least they know where I'm coming from because they've had that experience growing up. So it's just good to see somebody else have that same thought
Yeah.
process on like why it's
And
important we do this. And
yeah, and well, so many of my friends are like, oh, you should teach this, you should make videos. Well, I made the couple TikToks. That's a pain in the ass. You're
Hmm.
trying to do this canning stuff and you're trying to film it at the same. That's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So I made a couple when we did okra, and I was like, yeah, fuck that. But I have actually offered, listen, because there's a farm that's like an hour and a half away, and right now their tomatoes just come in, and you can go up there, and it's a you pick farm, so you can pick their tomatoes for
My God.
$8 for a 5 gallon bucket.
What?
$8 for a 5 gallon bucket, or you can get the 25-pound box for $20. Which my lazy ass last time we went, it was like 97 degrees. I was like, you get them fucking boxes. I'm not going out in that shit. But
Yeah.
literally, a 18-pound case of jalapenos, $8.
Do you know how much fiery jalapeno jelly I would make with that? Oh,
We did so
God.
we did candied jalapenos, we did candied habaneros, I hollowed a bunch of the habaneros out and made a
Candied
cream cheese.
jalapenos. Oh,
They are so good. Matter of fact, Alex was just eating candied habaneros last night on a hamburger.
that's
But
amazing.
the candied jalapenos, I just take a Ritz cracker and some cream cheese and put that candied jalapenos on top.
Hmm.
Oh my God, it's so good. But anyway, so I mean, I can go up there and get a box of pickling cucumbers for $12. And when I say a box, I'm talking anywhere from 15, 25 pounds, depending on what it is. And so I'll tell them, anytime you see me say, hey, I'm going to more farms and y'all want to come, I have no problem with y'all coming and me teaching you how to do everything from start to finish. I'll send you home with some jars too if you're helping, you know.
Yeah.
No, and then everybody, oh, I'm busy this weekend. Oh, I'm busy. So you just want me to do it for you and then you buy it? I sure as hell ain't selling it to you for cheap. I mean, I don't know what you're expecting, but that's not gonna happen. But
So
yeah,
the question that I was going to ask you about, like, so what are you passionate about that you don't post on Facebook often? Like, I think we've kind of covered that one already because
I'm just gonna say, I mean, I post about everything. Literally every, I mean, even the whole weight loss thing. I was fat. I got up to 304 pounds. I went to the doctor in June or May, and she says, yeah, you're type 2 diabetic now. We need to do something about that. And I mean, that day I was like, all right, I'm posting it. I'm holding myself accountable. I'm fat.
I
I
don't
got,
think it's okay.
I,
The only reason I say I'm like, I think sometimes we are unaware of how unhealthy we have become until life slows us down in other ways
yeah.
that we were not aware that we were already starting to get slow at. And my big epiphany was I got sick and then I got sicker and then I woke up one day and I could hardly walk. And I
Yeah.
couldn't figure out like what was going on, but I found that, throughout just like the whole process of like shutting down for the pandemic and stuff, like I had gotten COVID, my one of my best friends died, and then I filed for divorce all in the span of 1 week. And it was the hardest time ever. And whatever trauma I had gone through during that whole time just embedded itself and then made me
Mhm.
sicker. And
Yeah.
I was on the scale and I was 312 pounds. What? Where did you come from? And
Yeah.
then it was just because I was not honoring myself and I was not treating myself very nicely because the world wasn't treating me nice at that point. So I just figured, why not just internalize that abuse some more? And
Yeah.
it wasn't that I was eating a lot of unhealthy things because I wasn't. And the doctor
Oh,
put
I
me
did.
on nutritional counseling because of it. And I'm tracking every calorie and I'm not able to do the elliptical like she wants me to. And I'm not able to do the treadmill like she wants me to. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, why is my body holding on to this? So, and it turned out it had nothing to do with my habits. It had everything to do with my health. So when I
Yeah.
finally like took a step back and was just like, all right, doc, you gotta help me figure this out because on paper it looks like I'm doing everything right. On the scale, it says fuck you. So
Yeah,
how do
exactly.
we how do we figure this out? So mine was a
Mhm.
little bit non-traditional way of losing weight, but it saved my life. And
Yeah.
anybody who says that getting surgery or taking the
It's
easy
the
quote
easy
unquote
way
way
out.
out,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is not easy. There are times where I can't even eat, so I have to drink my calories and protein in order to get my daily dose, and my body is still having a hard time letting go of some of the excess weight. I've
Yeah.
lost 110 pounds so far, which is great.
Yay.
Probably needed to lose like 125 but I'm healthy. And now
Right.
I can,
Right.
I just did Disneyland last year and I walked a total of 11 miles in one day, so that is a huge, huge.
Well, see, Well, just I've got the cerebral palsy down my right side. Well, I've got the bad ankle too. And the older I'm getting, arthritis is setting in this ankle, and all it takes is me to step on it wrong one
Hmm.
time, and I can't walk for 2 or 3 weeks because I've hair fractured the top of my foot, that bone that runs to your big toe.
Right.
So, well, I was I lost what, 90 something pounds in Italy,
Yeah.
but I was doing that HCG diet that was such a fad back then.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that I was fucking my body up
Hmm.
because I messed with my um the caloric threshold that my body. So I was only eating 500 calories. So now when I go back to eating 1600 calories, my body's like, oh, you're binging, let's hold
Hmm.
every bit of this. So when I'm eating like a normal person, I'm putting the weight back on because I did what I did for a year. So and then I started losing weight um last year, and then Tracy died in July, and then it just turned into a shit spiral. But when I'm at work, I'm sedentary and I'm wearing stretchy dress pants and whatnot. So I wasn't even realizing how much weight I was gaining until May. We went to something for Mallory at the school. It was a water day or something, and her classroom was already at the back of the school, and then the water day was past that out on the track. Well, I walked all the way through, and my ankle was killing me, my hip was killing me, and then we're standing out there and we're watching them on all these water slides, and there's like 4 water slides, and each class gets to take turns. And I finally, about halfway through, I told Alex, I said, I've got to go sit in the car. I can't stand here anymore. I feel like I'm gonna cry. Well, walking back, just because when we walked out there, we were stopping for this and we were stopping for that. So it didn't phase me as much as walking back. I couldn't even get to the front of the school. I had to stop and sit on a bench. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
Hmm.
So that was at the end of May. And I immediately scheduled my annual. And then that's when I went in and I got on the scale and I'm like, oh, holy shit, what the hell? I was just 250. How'd this happen?
Yeah.
So then she's like, well, maybe we should try Ozempic. I'm like, I've seen that commercial, you know. And so I've been doing the shot, and it's almost like a chemical weight loss surgery, really, because it's called a semi-gluted, I think is what they call it. But what it does is it slows your metabolism down to the point to where you're fuller longer.
Oh,
So
okay.
like on Friday, Alex took the day off because it was Mallory's birthday and we were going to go up to school and take her cupcakes and whatnot. So we had to drop her off at 9, but we didn't have to um we didn't have to pick the cupcakes up till 10, and we didn't have to be back at the school till 10:30. Well, we went and voted because it's early voting here. And that took literally 3 minutes. We walked in, there was no line. I was like, well, what the fuck are we going to do now? I was like, let's go get breakfast. We go to this little cafe that we've never been at, and so I order a half of biscuits and gravy, which is literally one biscuit broke in half with the sausage gravy of it,
Hmm.
and I ordered a side of cheese grits with bacon on top. I only ate a half of the biscuit and maybe half of the grits, and then I pushed it to Alex. I was like, I can't even eat anymore because I'm used to eating a Greek yogurt for breakfast, and that's it. But and then there's and if I eat something that I'm not supposed to, I would be so sick. Oh my
Oh
god, I would
yeah.
be nauseous. And when we were working on all those jalapenos, we had made stuffed jalapenos wrapped in bacon, and we stuck them in the little jalapeno stand and stuck them out on the grill, and oh, they were so good. But that was the only thing I had had all day because we were canning, and on this medicine, 9 times out of 10, you're not hungry, so you don't think, hey, I need to stop and eat. Well, we made those, and I was like, I haven't ate anything. I need to eat a few of these. I ate 5. It woke me up at 3 in the morning throwing up, just
Yeah.
randomly 3 in the morning. But I will say I've lost 35 pounds on it. It's super slow. Like I haven't lost anything in 2 weeks, but I'm still losing and I'm not gaining. And I noticed the less red meat that I eat, the less inflamed my ankle is. Like
Yeah.
right now, since I've been sitting talking to you this whole time, when I get up, I have to stand on my right foot very easily and then take a couple steps. Because if I were just to get up and start, trying to walk fast, a ligament, it will pop in my ankle, and it's this burning sensation that it's unreal. And,
Wow.
and then I'm limping to the kitchen, and the more I'm on it, like I was on it a lot yesterday and the day before for the party, the more I'm on it, the longer it takes to recover.
But it's yeah, it just changes your entire process and like your approach to things because our normal Friday night was always nachos, sodas, and Sundays afterward. That was our movie watching, menu during COVID because that was our one thing we would do, and that just turned into days and days of nachos with Sundays. And then when I went on nutritional counseling and I had to start making those better decisions for myself and I was eating lots of fruits and vegetables and it still didn't change anything, I was like, man, I just might as well fucking go back to nachos then, because this point, this is stupid and this sucks.
Right?
But
Yeah.
surgery makes you have this come to Jesus moment with your body because you're like, look, I know I filled you with lots of junk and I have not praised you as much as I should have. I'm sorry I gave you Diet Coke instead of water and milk and all of the things that are probably way better choices. But if you allow me to lose this weight, I promise the space I do leave you in my stomach will be, but at the same time, I was part of a lot of bariatric groups on Facebook and they were just like, don't deny yourself this stuff, like have little pieces of it because it's all you're going to want to have anyway, but at least still do it. So you're not like, I gave up everything and then you gain it all back anyway, because you're just filling your shit with more
I was
stuff.
just gonna say,
Okay, so last question, or actually two last questions. Okay, so let's go back to connection and like when we first met and stuff. So like, what is one solid memory, good or bad, that you have about us when we first met or first connected via social media?
that first time we all did jam at your house, it was me, you, Jana, I think Sherlisa was there.
Yeah.
Everybody was there, and everybody was around the table, and we all had something to do, and we were all cutting up and being stupid, and that was just a good day. It was a whole day of jamming and just connecting and not having to worry about anything.
Yeah, no, it was great. And I loved just the support and the laughter and the just let's bounce, and I think there was a couple of times where we were just like, okay, let me throw this at you and see what the group thinks about this, and it was like either relationship stuff or it was just life stuff in general. And I know at the time I was still going to get, I think I was going after my bachelor's degree and I was learning about a whole bunch of new stuff. And I think I was talking about like women's literature or something. And I'm like, does it seem sexist if your teacher is constantly talking about all these women, even though he's supposed to be teaching you women's lit? And like, you guys were like, oh my God, girl, you better call your dean or like, and I was like, yeah, I should. Cause I had this really misogynistic teacher who kept assigning things for us to read that subjugated women. And I was just like, this feels really gross. So I like said something to you guys about it and you're like, oh my God, yeah, it's totally justified to feel that way. And I was like, oh, thank God. Yeah, it was crazy stuff. Yeah, it's not just me. Okay, so to wrap all of this up, okay, so I'm free reign, ask me anything. What is something you would like to ask?
I don't know, because I mean, I know everything for the most part.
So there's nothing like long-standing question or
No, because if I have a question, I ask it.
yeah, you do.
No.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, like coming on here. I think this is the longest interview I've done yet, so this is
It's
really
almost
great.
2 hours, I think.
Yeah. So I'm probably gonna have to cut some of the stuff out, but it was so fun. So thank you for like calling and reconnecting and just kind of
You're welcome. I
giving me
enjoyed it.
life on this stuff. This was great. Thank you so much for joining me for this latest episode of Have We Really Met? Stick around for more interviews, more connections, where I poke and prod my social media list and ask them, have we really met? So until next time, I'm Dominique.